Today, it's time to talk about the anti-diva. Hello guys, one more time and welcome to Ring Royalty. My name is Alexis, as you already know, and today I am bringing you another episode of Rise and Fall. Once again, you voted on my main channel, Alexis Girani, who's the women that you wanted to see in this episode. So without any further to say, it's time to talk about Paige. Saraya Davis, aka Paige, signed with the WWE in September 2011, but she didn't debut until early 2012. She only had one match under the name of Saraya, and a month later it was switched to Paige, the name that we all knew her for. She was part of WWE's developmental territory, FCW, and she had many different matches with the likes of Raquel Diaz, Audrey Marie, and Sofia Cortez. However, the big step for Paige would come 1 year after she signed with the company, because she was moved to NXT. They were rebranding the NXT show. It was not going to be a contest show anymore. It would be a developmental brand televised on the WWE network, and Paige was part of the original roster there. Such a huge moment because there were only 3 or 4 women inside that roster, at least when it began. So it was a truly great opportunity for Paige to showcase what she can do to executives and even live crowds. Her first real feud there was against Summer Rae, and she quickly became a fan favorite because of her charisma, look, and in-ring skills. Summer and Paige's rivalry got a lot of attention from the NXT fan and even NXT management back then. They got double segments in one show and lengthy matches too, which was so different from what was happening in WWE's main roster at the time. But definitely the biggest accomplishment for Paige was taking part in the NXT Women's Championship tournament. They were going to crown the first ever NXT Women's Champion, and Paige managed to successfully defeat established divas like Tamina and Alicia Fox in the first round and the semi-final to reach the finals, where she faced Emma in a really memorable match on NXT TV, where Paige became the first ever NXT Women's Champion after she hit the Paige Turner on Emma. Crowd pop, all the NXT Women's division came out to congratulate her. This moment basically solidified the new generation of women that were coming from NXT to take over the WWE in the future, and that's exactly what happened. Paige was considered the pioneer of this new generation of women. Paige was definitely the leading lady of this new generation, and is a well-deserved accomplishment since she has been training to be a wrestler ever since she was 15 years old. She had a very long reign, 308 days, but sadly she couldn't defend the championship that much. She only had 3 title defenses, at least on TV. The first one was against her longtime rival Summer Rae. It was a pretty decent match. Then she defended the championship against established diva Natalya. Very good match. I really love the chemistry between Natalya and Paige. It was so good that Paige had the opportunity to face a veteran in a title defense. But obviously the most important championship defense that she got was in NXT Arrival, the first ever NXT pay-per-view, when Paige defeated Emma one more time after a 10+ minute match. Crowd was erupting every 2 minutes because there were so many great spots there. Women felt so important, and the fact that Paige couldn't defeat Emma with a Paige Turner, which was the move that actually got her the championship, made crowd crazy. Paige ultimately won that match and retained her championship with a PTO, such a devastating submission hold, and this definitely established Paige as one of the most important superstars in the NXT brand. It was so unfortunate that Paige couldn't defend her championship as often as most divas or women superstars do, but the fact that she was the first ever champion and got to defend the championship in the first ever NXT pay-per-view is a huge deal, and also cement her legacy in the history books. Paige never lost this championship. She moved to the main roster, which we're going to talk about in a minute, and she actually had to relinquish the championship. Her last official match in NXT, she teamed up with Emma to face BFF members Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair, where they were defeated. Paige left NXT in defeat, but paved the way for this newer generation. I'm talking about Sasha and Charlotte, you already know. Women who were just hungry to get the spotlight. Such a nice way for her to leave, leaving the spotlight in other women as she already had big plans on the main roster. Fun fact, FYI, just if you wanted to know, this match happened in April, but Paige made 2 appearances later that year in June, returning to NXT along with Emma to defend Bayley from the BFFs. Such an underrated faction, by the way. Sasha Banks, Summer Rae, and Charlotte Flair, which set a 3-on-3 women's tag team match where Paige's team ended up victorious. Her official last match was losing to Sasha and Charlotte, yet this special appearance was winning against them. So, I mean, I guess it's poetic justice, right? So overall, 2013 and Paige's NXT run was a success. They made her a star. They had her as the first ever champion. She made a lot of history. Well, like we mentioned, her reign wasn't as action-packed as we wanted to, but then again, she's already solidifying herself as one of the most important women of the newer generation. And let's move now to the main roster, because her arrival was in April 2014 on Raw, the Raw after WrestleMania to be more precise, where she surprised the world by facing AJ Lee for the Divas Championship and actually win the title in her debut, making her the second woman in history to win a championship in their debut. The first one being Gail Kim, just letting you know in case you're curious. The crowd popped so hard, and it was surprising if you think about it, because back then not many people watched NXT. Then again, Paige was a breath of fresh air that the Divas division needed. AJ Lee has just defeated all of the women's roster in the Vicky Guerrero Divas Championship Invitational a night prior to Paige's debut, so who else would step up? They needed new faces, and Paige was definitely in the right place in the right time. After having one of the greatest main rosters debut for a woman in history, Paige's first title reign was pretty interesting. The first couple months, at least, it was my impression that Paige didn't feel as comfortable as she was in NXT, maybe because crowds were way bigger. But then again, after a couple months, she regained her confidence and the anti-diva was back. In this first championship reign, she defended the title against the likes of Brie Bella on Raw, Tamina at Extreme Rules, Alicia Fox at Payback, and Naomi at Money in the Bank. All of these matches actually were really decent. Most people don't really remember them for some reason, and I think Paige shared the spotlight with some of these women that were forgotten for a while, like Tamina or Alicia Fox, that weren't doing anything special. So it was refreshing to see how the Divas division was moving around now that there was a new face and a new champion ruling the division. However, her championship reign would end when the former champion AJ Lee would return, and somehow, with another poetic justice moment, she tricked Paige to give her a championship rematch, which she agreed to, and AJ Lee defeated Paige in under 3 minutes in this quick fashion, just like Paige did, to regain the Divas Championship. Paige was so livid, but the crowd was so in love with this moment, and so was I. The awaited return of AJ Lee was finally happening, and we would finally get Paige against AJ in a real rivalry. This was so exciting because they were probably the 2 most over women in the WWE at the time. Her first Divas Championship reign ended after 84 days, and she started this weird angle where she was trying to be best friends with AJ Lee, but there were some weird interactions. Nobody really knew who was the babyface and who was the heel of this story. I guess they were just twinners, or maybe they were just both crazy. I mean, it could also happen. Nonetheless, this alliance actually gave them many wins in tag team matches until they had the championship rematch at WWE Battleground 2014, where Paige couldn't regain the Divas Championship, yet she shook AJ's hand after the match as if nothing bad was happening. The night after the pay-per-view, they team up again to defeat Natalya and Emma, but Paige turned heel on AJ and beat the crap out of her. AJ is such a good seller, and this attack really felt vicious. Paige threw AJ against the ring post, against the ring announcers, and debuted this famous catchphrase that was probably the one that she made her career about: "This is my house." Or, as she said it, "This is my house." My god, that was horrible. Finally, Paige was established as the heel of this rivalry, and she earned another championship opportunity at SummerSlam, the second biggest event in WWE. Paige countered the Black Widow into a rampage for the 1, 2, 3. One of the best counters, if not the best counter I've seen from the Black Widow. She turned AJ's finisher into her finisher to become a 2-time Divas champion. It was a pretty long match, the storytelling was there, and the crowd was into it. So compared to some other Divas Championship matches from the past, I would say this match was way ahead of its time. Apparently Paige was back on top, but no, don't get your hopes up, because Paige lost the championship in her first title defense the next pay-per-view at Night of Champions, where she defended the championship against Nikki Bella and AJ Lee in a triple threat match. Refreshing to see Nikki get into the mix between AJ and Paige. Ultimately, Paige would lose the championship as she tapped out to AJ's Black Widow. The championship reign would end at only 35 days. However, it was a pretty amusing match, and also the fact that Paige trying to counter AJ's Black Widow again, but this time AJ was prepared to avoid that counter, was so nice. Once again, storytelling. Paige apparently thought that AJ had her number, so she needed an ally, and Alicia Fox was there to fill in this spot. She aligned herself with Alicia Fox, attacking AJ multiple times as she was outnumbered, until Paige had her championship rematch at Hell in a Cell. Match that she lost again, and she blamed Alicia Fox for it. So she beat the hell out of Alicia Fox not only after the match at Hell in a Cell, but also the night after on Raw, ending their alliance. So pretty much this alliance was useless. Paige was kind of crazy, Alicia Fox was kind of crazy, AJ was crazy, so we basically had a storyline with 3 crazy chicks. What else can you ask for? Nothing else was relevant after Hell in a Cell. The rest of 2014, basically Paige participated in 2 battle royals, one at Halloween and one at Christmas, losing them both. There was a really random Divas tag team elimination match at Survivor Series that year, where Paige's team, which was Summer Rae, Layla, and Cameron, faced Alicia Fox's team, I guess. It was Alicia, Naomi, Emma, and Natalia. It was so random, I guess the Divas were just in catering and they decided to bring them out for some reason. At least they got TV time. The match was okay, nothing special. Basically, all of Paige's team got eliminated. She was the last one standing. Paige did what she could to hold her own against 4 other competitors, but she ended up tapping out. I'm not sure if it was to Natalia or to Emma, but that's besides the point, I guess. Bottom line, the whole Alicia Fox team got their hands raised in victory, while all of Paige's team got eliminated and embarrassed at Survivor Series. At the Slammy Awards ceremony, Paige was also nominated for Diva of the Year, but she wouldn't win that award since AJ was voted as Diva of the Year 2014. Even though Paige lost a lot of momentum by the end of 2014, at the beginning of 2015 she decided to change that because she turned face by defending Natalia from the now Divas champion Nikki Bella and her sister Brie Bella, which would set a tag team match at the Royal Rumble event where Paige and Natalia would be defeated by the Bella twins. However, it was Natalia the one that got pinned, so Paige was still in hunt for the Divas Championship. She decided to go solo by Natalia and try to chase Nikki's Divas Championship. She got the championship match at Fastlane, where she lost not only because of Brie's distractions but also Nikki grabbed her tights. Management decided to give Paige another opportunity on Raw, but once again, Brie Bella's interference caused disqualification. For that reason, Paige won the match but not the championship. A post-match beatdown happened. The Bella Twins were just owning Paige's ass until AJ Lee came back. Let's light it up, light it up, light it up, light it up. I saw crowds love every time AJ Lee came back after hiatus. Paige and AJ cleaned the ring from the Bella Twins and actually started an alliance. And that's how Team Frenemies began. The road to WrestleMania 31 was interesting. The Bellas were trying to divide Paige and AJ. They were not a real tag team, obviously, so they were trying to make them break up before WrestleMania because there was a tag team match set there. Paige and AJ against the Bella Twins. They did everything they could, even offering one of them a championship match. Ultimately, it was Paige again. But due to some miscommunication between AJ and Paige, Paige once again lost the championship match, and then they started to brawl. It doesn't really matter that Paige and AJ brawl because they fixed their problems just 2 nights after on SmackDown, and they were coming full force to face the Bellas at WrestleMania. Just a quick side note, no, I'm getting off topic, but I am really pissed off that they made the WrestleMania match for women a tag team match, one that we have seen many times by the way, instead of giving us a fatal 4-way match for the Divas Championship. I'm still thinking to this day that would be such a great moment for women's wrestling and actually a memorable one for Nikki Bella's Divas Championship reign. But okay, let's go back to Paige. At WrestleMania, Paige did most of the work. AJ Lee just came in the end to lock in the Black Widow and make Nikki Bella tapped out, giving Paige her first victory at WrestleMania. Huge moment for her. It was her first WrestleMania event and she already scored a victory. And teaming up with AJ, basically the two most over women in the WWE besides the Bella Twins, were on top. A night after, Paige and AJ team up again to face the Bella Twins, but this time we had Naomi on Paige's side and Natalya on the Bella's side. Ultimately, Paige's team would win again, but it was Naomi the one who pinned Nikki Bella. And it would also be AJ Lee's last match in WWE. She literally took her Chuck Taylors and tweeted, "I'm out." Paige and Naomi team up again later on to defeat the Bellas once more, but the important part would come here. Mid-April after WrestleMania, there wasn't a clear championship contender for Nikki Bella, despite Naomi defeated her twice in tag team matches, but I guess WWE logic, so they issue a Divas Battle Royal. This match took place in England, Paige's home country. Obviously, crowd wanted her to win, and she did. What crowd didn't count on was that Naomi would turn heel and viciously attack Paige after the match, injuring her, kayfabe, to get her spot in the Divas Championship opportunity. To be fair, I understand where Naomi's coming from because basically she defeated the champion twice. Paige would come back a month later to attack Naomi and her new ally Tamina, as well as Nikki Bella, the Divas Champion, setting a triple threat title match at Elimination Chamber 2015. Where Paige couldn't win the championship either. Oh my god, Paige really got a lot of championship opportunities in 2015. Nikki retained her championship after hitting the rack attack on Naomi for the 1-2-3. Once again, Paige wasn't defeated, so she got more championship opportunities. I mean, I love Paige, but at this time I was so tired of seeing her hunt the championship. There were so many talented girls back then that could have been challengers for Nikki, but I guess WWE didn't have faith in them. For the next couple months after Elimination Chamber, Paige got multiple title opportunities, mostly on Raw and even one at Money in the Bank. Always losing because of the Bella's shenanigans. They still used Swing Magic, which I found ridiculous because Brie and Nikki didn't even look alike back then anymore. And later on, with Foxy joining Team Bella, it was impossible for Paige to defeat 3 women at once. In fact, she tried to rile up the Divas division, but nobody really gave a damn. They really didn't care that the Bellas were the only relevant women in WWE at the time. Not even Naomi and Tamina, who were probably the most relevant ones in the locker room besides Paige and Team Bella. All of these led to one of the most historic moments in women's wrestling history, and that would be the arrival of the NXT women. Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch were brought by Stephanie McMahon to join forces with Paige, giving birth to Team PCV. Team PCV was ready to take on Team Bella, but there was one more team that was hungry for the spotlight, and that would be Naomi and Tamina, who were now joined by the NXT Women's Champion Sasha Banks to make Team Bad. In only one segment in July 2015, WWE did more for the women's division than the previous 6 months. It was awesome not only to see 3 debuts, but also 3 women's tag teams. 9 women having the spotlight definitely spiced things up. And let me tell you something, this is my personal opinion, even though Paige had most of the spotlight in the first half of 2015, the Divas division felt so dead. I don't remember much from that period of time after AJ Lee's retirement. I know Paige had many women's championship matches, but they were not like the big deal. You already knew the Bellas were going to win because Paige was outnumbered. She never really got her revenge on the Bella Twins for cheating on her multiple times. So she had the spotlight, but it also felt like a waste of time where nobody was moving forward in the division. Anyways, now the Divas Revolution has begun. These 3 teams had a lot of potential. There were so many ways that they could build storylines for all of these ladies, even having 2 or 3 separate storylines, but WWE handled these 3 tag teams horribly. It was a hot mess, the booking was inconsistent, all the teams were winning the same amount of matches, there was nobody that was actually taking over the division. Paige and all of the rest of the women's division fought in a triple threat elimination tag team match at SummerSlam. A pretty nice match with many different spots. It would be Team PCB the one to pick up the victory. Paige was definitely the leader of this team. However, you could start noticing by this time that Charlotte Flair was the one WWE wanted to push to the moon. Following SummerSlam, Team PCB was awarded with a Beat the Clock challenge. The member of the team that could win the respective match faster would get a championship opportunity at Night of Champions against Nikki Bella. Paige couldn't beat the clock that Charlotte set. For that reason, Charlotte would be the one challenging Nikki Bella at the next pay-per-view. And after this moment, Paige was fed up, it was visible, but also she entered this weird losing streak where she lost many different singles and tag team matches against the likes of Naomi and Sasha Banks, making an anger inside her fester around until it was finally unleashed the night after Night of Champions. Charlotte has just won the Divas Championship and Paige told everyone that it was all because of her. She claimed that she started the Divas Revolution and it was because of her that Charlotte, Becky and Sasha were there. Partially true, I guess, and she trash talked the whole women's division. Paige was feuding with Becky and Charlotte now, but at the same time she was feuding with Natalya and Team Bella. So I guess Paige was a tweener because she was facing everyone. I don't even know what they tried to do there. Finally, in late October, after many weeks of having this game of I'm your tag team partner and then I'm not from Paige, Charlotte and Becky, after losing against Team Bella, Paige would attack both Becky and Charlotte aggressively, establishing her as a real heel. Nikki Bella was finally out of the title picture after her championship rematch at Hell in a Cell, so Paige took the spot of the #1 contendership by defeating Brie Bella, Sasha Banks, and former PCB teammate Becky Lynch in a Fatal 4-Way #1 contenders match. Finally, Charlotte against Paige was happening, and thank God it was clear that Paige was the heel now and Charlotte was the babyface. The build to Survivor Series felt very personal. Even at the contract signing, Paige brought up this very controversial line about Charlotte's brother who passed away. I guess your little brother didn't have so much fire left in him, did he? Bitch, she was such a bitch there. However, even after that bitchy comment, Paige would lose her championship match at Survivor Series by tapping out to the figure 8 and would later receive another title shot against Charlotte at TLC and would lose again, this time thanks to Ric Flair's interference. A year full of championship opportunities and spotlight, but barely any of those moments felt meaningful. I'm not sure if it's just me, but I feel like Paige was such a big star back in NXT in 2013 and also in WWE in 2014. But 2015 was a weird year for women's wrestling. So many things happened, from Aj's retirement to the NXT girls' arrival, that Paige sort of like got lost in the mix, even though she was there. From my point of view, Paige basically got lost in the mix. From my point of view, Paige wasn't as big as she was the years prior, which is funny because this year she was mostly on spotlight, but barely any of these moments felt meaningful. I mean, don't get me wrong, Paige was still a prominent force in the women's division, but I would say that 2015 was the year that everything started to fall down. At the Slammy Awards ceremony, Paige just had this very funny interaction with R-Truth, kind of like mocking what happened in the Miss Universe that year. She was actually nominated for Diva of the Year, but Nikki Bella was the winner of that category. Paige wasn't on TV for a couple weeks, but she returned in the first Raw episode of 2016, teaming up with Natalya and suddenly becoming a face for no reason to team up with the women that she was trash talking and beating the hell down just a couple months before. I mean, I guess Paige feels just generous and in a good mood on January because she usually turns face for no reason on January. It happened the previous year and it's happening this year. What the hell's going on, Paige? To defeat Brie Bella and Alicia Fox in a tag team match. For the next couple months, Paige had random tag team and singles matches, winning and losing some of them, but actually there was nothing interesting going on with her career until WrestleMania season came around. A month prior to WrestleMania, the Bad and Blonde against Total Divas teams build-up started, and Paige was probably one of the leading ladies there. she started an interaction with Lana, Naomi, and Tamina backstage, and that's where the feud basically started. It was very cool. During this build-up, we saw Emma and Eva Marie made their return to the main roster after being sent back down to NXT, and also we got many different women on Spotlight. The match also got a lot of hype, even though it was on the pre-show at WrestleMania 32, because it will be Lana's debut in the ring and also Brie Bella's retirement. The Total Divas team would end up winning the match after Brie Bella locked the Yes Lock on Naomi, and Paige, along with the rest of her cast members of Total Divas, celebrated. Nice moment, Paige getting a second WrestleMania victory in a row, nice for her, but she was definitely not the start of this match at all. It was focused mostly on Brie and Lana's rivalry. Fast forward to June, Paige faced Charlotte on Raw for the now Women's Championship, no more Divas Championship, honey, after defeating her in a couple of non-title matches. Unfortunately, losing the match after Dana Brooke's interference. Flair and Brooke weren't done, and they started to beat the hell out of Paige after the match, and somebody had to come to the rescue, and who would that be? The boss Sasha Banks making her return, which led to a tag team match the week after where Banks and Paige would defeat Brooke and Flair in a very competitive tag team match. It was so nice to me because Paige and Sasha didn't really have this high profile rivalry or interaction. Sadly, my investment wouldn't last long because Paige would disappear from WWE TV after this match. Her mom posted on Twitter that it was due to a neck injury. Paige was dealing with a neck injury, which would later on be a big problem in her career. I will let you know in a bit. And despite of being injured, in October 2016, Paige got drafted to Raw. She never really made an appearance there because she was not only injured now, but she also had some wellness policy violations. She broke the wellness policy twice according to WWE, and this is the time where Paige's personal life was also turmoil. There were a lot of reports from many different tabloids of Paige's personal life being really negative, with her toxic relationship with Alberto Del Rio that involved domestic violence, also the abuse of different substances. You know all the drama, and I'm not gonna get deeper into that, but all of this mess got Paige away from the WWE for over a year. Many people were saying, and some sources were reporting, that Paige would be fired from WWE, not only because of the violations of the wellness policy, but also because of all the drama that was happening in her personal life that would have a negative impact in WWE, which could be true. Thankfully, it didn't happen, and Paige was able to keep her contract and return later on. As far as 2016 goes, instead of having a rise in her career, Paige definitely got a fall, and a huge fall, like she almost hit rock bottom. 2016 was probably the worst year in Paige's career, for sure. Things would light up for Paige when she returned in November 2017, interrupting a fatal 4-way #1 contenders match between Mickie James, Alicia Fox, Sasha Banks, and Bayley. Paige wouldn't come along though. She was joined by the newest acquisitions from NXT, Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. They decimated Banks, James, and Bayley and stated themselves as the top dogs of the women's division on Raw. Absolution has made their debut, and it was so interesting. Honestly, people popped so hard when Paige was back. They were even chanting Mandy and Sonya, despite not being that popular. It was all because of Paige's hype. Paige also got this iconic line in her return, "I'm back." I love that line. A week after her return, she would have her first singles match back, and then Absolution would basically start a rivalry with the whole Raw Women's division, attacking many different women backstage, having many different promos, explaining why they were together, which I appreciate because it's something that doesn't happen that often anymore. Now, all of this was a build-up to the first ever Women's Royal Rumble match in January 2018. The build-up wasn't the greatest, but at least it gave most of the women on Raw screen time and also being involved in a rivalry, which is something that didn't happen that often, so it's something that we should appreciate. Absolution was definitely taking Paige's career back on track, and everything was awesome again. Paige was getting huge crowd pops, she was winning matches, she was in a prominent storyline, she even overshadowed Alexa Bliss's Raw Women's Championship reign, so that's a big deal. Unfortunately, everything had an abrupt end even before it started full force. In a house show on December 2017, Absolution was facing Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Mickie James in a 6-women tag team match, and Paige would suffer a career-ending injury on her neck again. After a double kick to the back from Banks, Paige needed to be assisted to the back, and would later be reported that Paige was seriously injured and she could not perform anymore. This was not confirmed by WWE though, but the rumors definitely got stronger when Paige missed the first ever Women's Royal Rumble match, first ever Women's Elimination Chamber match, and also the first ever Women's Battle Royal at WrestleMania. Everything was historic around this time for women, and Paige missed all of it because of a career-ending injury. The Raw following WrestleMania 33, Paige officially announced her retirement from wrestling in a heartfelt speech segment. It was very touching. A lot of people in the crowd were in shock. They were crying. I mean, everybody knew it was coming, but it was so difficult to see Paige crying in the middle of the ring. This was definitely her life. She has been training ever since she was 15. Wrestling is all she knows. She's passionate about it. And to have your dream taken away from you and there's nothing that you can do about it must be one of the most painful things a human has to go through. I really tear up a little bit watching this segment. I would have preferred, honestly, that WWE gave Paige the chance to come out as a regular segment and announce her retirement, rather than having this weird post-match promo after Sonya Deville's match. But then again, it is what it is. Paige got around 5 minutes to say everything that she wanted to say. It stated that this would always be her house, and retired from wrestling, leaving her t-shirt in the middle of the ring. One of the saddest moments, especially because Paige was so young and she could still give a lot to the company. But I mean, these type of disgraces happen. It was definitely a tragedy, but there was nothing that anybody could do. Paige was officially out as an in-ring competitor. Surprisingly, Paige would return just a night after her retirement speech, because Shane McMahon announced that Paige would be the replacement for Daniel Bryan in the SmackDown General Manager position. Such a great moment. The crowd popped and chanted, "You deserve it," and she definitely did deserve it. It was so nice also that WWE showed that they care enough about Paige to give her a spot in the company despite not being able to wrestle. That says a lot, so kudos to WWE for that. It was great to have a female authority figure in WWE programming. There wasn't one ever since Vicky Guerrero, so I think it was nice for a change. And she held this position until December 2018. That's when the McMahons announced that they would take over both Raw and SmackDown to make it a better show. Therefore, Paige wouldn't be necessary as a general manager. 4 months of absence happened until she returned to SmackDown in April 2019 to announce that she has created a team that will become the Women's Tag Team Champions in no time. Women's Tag Team Championships were debuted just 2 months prior, and the Iconics were now the champions. So she brought Asuka and the new main roster superstar Kairi Sane together to make the Kabuki Warriors. I mean, it was good to see Paige back, but you're not gonna tell me that this team didn't look odd. It was a random team paired up, I guess because Kairi Sane and Asuka were just Japanese. WWE decided to put them together, and Paige as a mouthpiece could have worked, but I don't know, all of the characters were so different. I just didn't see the point of that team, and it accomplished absolutely nothing while Paige was managing them. She had to go out for a bit to get another neck surgery, and that's when the Kabuki actually won the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships by turning heel, and later on betrayed Paige when she came back, misting her in the face and sending her to obscurity, because that was the last time that we saw Paige on WWE programming. It happened in October 2019. Now let's briefly mention that Paige was also a panelist and a commentator for WWE's talk show Backstage that they have on Fox, and she announced there that she has signed a new contract with WWE that would expire in 2024. So we have Paige under contract for 3 more years. I'm not sure what's gonna be the place for her now. She can't wrestle. Apparently they don't need any authority figures. Would she be a manager? Would she be released sometime in the future? I don't know. I don't really see a place for Paige right now. Hopefully she would pull up a Daniel Bryan or Edge and come back to the ring. I mean, fingers crossed, but for now, I see that's very unlikely. To sum all of this up, 2013 and 14 were basically Paige golden years. and 2015, and later on that's when everything started to go downhill. Maybe rising a little bit when Absolution debuted, but it was cut short by the mother freaking career-ending injury. But I mean, that's life and it sometimes happens. And this was all the journey from Paige in WWE. Alright, so this was the rise and fall of Paige, the anti-diva. Hope you appreciate the pictures over here. Also, I forgot to mention that Paige was the first original 2-belt because she was both Divas Champion and NXT Women's Champion at the same time. Something that WWE doesn't give her credit for. Hope that you like this video. Tell me down in the comments what do you think about Paige's career in WWE. What were your favorite and least favorite moments about it? And once again, this will be it for this video. Really happy about the reception my videos are having, and that's all thanks to you. My name is Alexis, as you already know. Here is my Instagram if you want to contact me or anything, and I will see you guys next time. Please stay safe. Goodbye.